Most board members understand that the maintenance of the association's common elements is critical to maintain a safe and functioning community. These common elements include things like siding, roofing, roadways, and driveways, along with amenities sometimes, things like pools, playgrounds, and tennis courts. The list is long and is expensive to maintain. Sometimes maintenance is deferred simply because the association doesn't have the available funds to make the repairs. However, in the end, this typically ends up in more costly repairs, or worse, the component fails completely and needs replacement. The importance of setting a realistic operating budget each year and properly funding your reserves cannot be stressed enough. Not increasing association fees each year is not good fiscal management, because over time, underfunding can be detrimental to your association if funds are not available for repairs and replacements when needed. Associations should also have preventative maintenance plans in place. This is actually a requirement if your association is governed by the Minnesota Common Interest Ownership Act, otherwise known as MCIWA. Keep records of preventative maintenance that's completed each year. Board members turn over and memories become foggy when you try to remember the last time the association was caulked, for example. By keeping a simple spreadsheet of what's been done, maintenance repairs won't get lost and a timeline for each item can be determined. For example, caulking of the windows should be completed every 10 years so the timeline can be determined into the future. The question is, how do board members know when to plan on replacing common elements and make sure they're getting the longest life out of the components that they can? The answer is to try and stay as close as you can to the association's reserve study. The reserve study is an important tool that's required to be updated every 3 years if your association's under MCIWA. If you're not under MCIWA, a reserve study is strongly recommended, even though it's not necessarily a state requirement. Too many boards pay for the reserve study and then place it on a shelf or somewhere in a desktop file, never to be seen again. If you really dig into your association's reserve study and take the time to understand the replacement timeline and the money needed to fund the component, the association would be in a much better financial position down the road. When properly funded, your association's reserves will cover the cost of future component replacements and eliminate or reduce the likelihood of potential special assessments or loans. It's not too late to start properly funding your reserves. The state of Minnesota doesn't have a requirement for reserves an association must budget for each year. The requirement is to adequately fund the reserves, and following the association reserve study is a great way to ensure you're funding correctly. Now, we completely understand that homeowners don't necessarily like to see their dues increase, but it is necessary to stay ahead of costs that arise each year. An association simply can't sustain itself if it doesn't increase the association dues consistently. If the dues are increased every year, for example 3 to 5%, the homeowners become accustomed to this yearly increase and can budget then accordingly. This allows associations to stay ahead of rising costs and keep on top of maintenance needs of the association. So, take your reserve study off the shelf or find it somewhere on your desktop, review it, try to understand it as best you can. If you don't have a current reserve study, be sure to ask your manager to request an update. Then, incorporate what you've learned and apply it into your role as a board member, especially when it becomes time for budgeting. Always be aware of the association's necessary preventative maintenance and keep your home values high by maintaining your property. Your gas and manager or GCM can help you identify your maintenance needs. Just ask your gas and manager for help.